Hey there everybody, welcome to today's lesson. Today our I can statement is, I can compute percent increase and decrease problems. So this is going to be very similar to our problems that we've just gotten done with, those markup and discount problems. You'll see a lot of similarities here. First, in our warm-up, let's talk about this. What does it mean when something is increasing? And what does it mean when something is decreasing? Those two are opposites, right? So when something is increasing, that means it's going up. Or you could say it's getting bigger. So like if the temperature is increasing, the numbers are going up, it's getting warmer. Or if the population is increasing, it's getting bigger, there's more people. Or if your grade is increasing, you're getting a better and better grade. Decreasing is the opposite. That's going to be going down or getting smaller. Okay. So there we go with that. We're not going to worry about B. If you want to just cross that out or not write it down, if you're just taking notes, that's fine. We're going to skip over that one. Let's go on. It says finding percent increase or decrease is very similar to finding answers to markup and discount problems. The main difference is that we're always finding the percent. Okay. It'll be very important for you to translate each of these problems into the form where you have like one number here. So one number is whatever percent of another number. And you're going to make sure that you have the of and the is numbers in the right place. We'll talk about that more later, okay? Let's do a few of these and see if we can find some patterns. Okay, it says find the percent change and state whether it's an increase or a decrease. So you do have to do two things. And then you're supposed to round to the nearest hundredth. You can see I kind of scribbled out what was there already. I just kind of want to do it in a different order because I feel like it makes more sense this way. So for step one, we're going to figure out what the increase or decrease is. So let's look at this example. The example says we're going from 5 meters to 8 meters. So first of all, is it an increase or a decrease? Did it go up or did it go down? In this case, it went up, so it is an increase. Good. Now, how much did it increase by? If it went from 5 to 8, it seems like it went up by 3 meters. So it increased by 3 meters. And if the numbers are bigger and it's less clear to you how much it changed by, just use subtraction. You can do this number minus that number or that number minus this number. Whichever one gives you a positive answer is what you want. And then just make sure you label it correctly by saying increase or decrease, okay? Excellent. So we know that it increased by 3 meters. That was step one. So for step two, you're going to say whatever percent. I'm just going to write P here for now. So you're going to do P percent of, and then here you're going to put the original number, the old price or the original figure or whatever you're dealing with. In this case, the old measurement. So you're going to put that original measurement there. And then is going to be the change. So that amount change that you computed, that's going to go right there. What I'm going to write in this blank is the increase or decrease. And I'm just going to abbreviate there. So P percent of the original, some percent of this first number is going to equal what you found in step one, basically. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So P percent, we still don't know what that is. We aren't going to know what that is for any of these problems. So P percent, I'll go ahead and write the percent sign there. Now times, what is the original? Let's see, the original was the 5. Okay, so I kind of skipped over this. Why did I write this dot here? Well, we know that of indicates multiplication, so I just wrote a little dot for multiplication. We can write it different ways. That's just how I wrote it this time. So P percent of 5, because that was the original, is, remember, is going to mean your equals sign. And then whatever the amount of the increase or decrease was goes here. In this case, we decided it increased by 3. So we're going to put the 3 over here. All right, so P percent times 5 equals 3. Let's clean this up a little bit. Let's get rid of that percent sign. I'm just going to write 5P equals 3. Because these two are next to each other, it indicates multiplication, so that looks good. If you want to put P times 5, totally fine also. All right, now we got to get that P by itself, which means we need to get rid of the 5. We're going to get rid of it by dividing because the opposite of multiplication is division. And for our final answer, we're going to get P equals, feel free to grab your calculators, and we're going to do 3 divided by 5, and that's going to give us 0.6. And that's exactly what I'm going to write, 0.6. Now, one of the reasons I like to use P as the variable is that reminds me at the end of the problem, hey, this is supposed to be a percent, and I need to move that decimal point. So when you get this, you're not done yet. You still have to change it into a percent. So let's move that decimal point 2 places, 1, 2. It's going to wind up there. We're going to have to add a 0, and so that is going to be 60%. Okay, and we still need to say increase, so let's write that right there, 60% increase. Okay, and then maybe just go ahead and look back at it and make sure it makes sense. So it went from 5 to 8 meters. That's a pretty big jump. It increased almost by half, a little more than half actually. And a 50% increase would be an increase by half. We have it a little bit more than 50%. So it looks like we did it right. So 60% increase, that makes sense. We're just going to circle it and then you can go on to the next thing. Okay, so we're not going to worry about all of these. These notes were made with a different method in mind. We're going to stick to the one that I just showed you, and we'll practice it on these next 3 problems. And then all of the problems in your assignment will be done exactly the same way. Okay, so there we go. So example 2, go from 45 quarts to 8 quarts. All right, here's your original or your old measurement. Here's your new one. So step 1 is to find the increase or the decrease, whatever it was. By the way, is it an increase or a decrease here? The number is definitely getting smaller, so it's a decrease. And to find the amount of that decrease, we're just going to go 45 minus 8, and that's going to equal 37. Okay, so the amount of the decrease is 37. Okay, so this number, that's what we're going to put in that blank. So remember, P% of the original price is the increase or the decrease. So let's take that original price and, okay, 45 times the percent. So 45 times P equals the decrease. So what I did is I just took this P%, I changed the order on you here just because this is more standard. P% of the original would be P times the original, which is 45, is the increase or decrease. Is that equal sign? And 37 is the amount of the decrease. So that is how I got the 45 times P equals 37. From here, you're just going to solve. You want P by itself, so let's divide by 45 on both sides. Go ahead and grab your calculator for that math. And you're going to get 37 divided by 45 equals, okay, lots of 2's there, 0.822222. 0.822. Now please remember, at this point we are not done. We still have to move that decimal point and make this into a percentage. So let's do that now. It's going to go 2 spaces over, and you're going to get 82 point, it says up here to round to the nearest hundredth, so that's what I'm going to do. 82.22%. Okay, now anytime you see a number that's well above 50, like 82, it's getting up there kind of closer to 100. That is a really big change. So you might want to go back up here and look at your problem and just make sure it makes sense. So you started with 45 and you went all the way down to 8. That's like way more than half, right? Half of 45 would, if it lost half of its volume, it'd be like 2250. It went all the way down to 8, so it should be a pretty big number. It is a pretty big number, so it looks like we're good. I did forget to write one word. Make sure you write that it's a decrease. I know I have it up here, but it's kind of nice to have it all officially there in the answer. So that is your final answer, 82.22% decrease. Okay. Don't you love the way that sounds, by the way? When you say, yes, that underwent an 82.22% decrease. Like, that totally sounds like you know what you're talking about, right? I love it. Okay, so we got to learn how to use these percents and sound all smart when we're talking about them because, you know, it's beyond just sounding smart. This is really important stuff. It's a good way to express yourself when you're using percents. Okay, let's go on to the next example. From 457, that's your original, to 1,000. All right, first of all, is it an increase or a decrease? It looks like that amount is getting bigger. If your bank account went up from $457 to $1,000, you'd be happy, right? I know I would be. So this is definitely an increase. Now let's figure out by how much. So let's do 1,000 minus 457. I'll just use my calculator for that. It doesn't really matter which number you do first, which number you do second. Just make sure you're winding up with a positive number. So I'm going to get 543. What if I had done 457 minus 1,000? That's going to give me a negative number, right? But I could just ignore the negative and put positive 543. What you don't want to do is say increase negative 543, because that would really kind of mean a decrease. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. And if you were to decrease a negative 37, that would kind of mean an increase. So don't put any negatives on these numbers when you're using the words increase and decrease, okay? Awesome. All right, so you have an increase of 543. Now remember, we have P percent. I'm going to write it out this time. P percent of the old price. Old price is 457. Is the amount of the increase or decrease, which is that 543. Okay, now let's put it in math. So P times 457. So this is the same as what I did over here, except this time I didn't switch my order around, right? And the is going to be equals, and then still 543. All right, now we have something that's solvable. We're just going to divide by 457 on both sides. And you're going to get P is equal to, okay, let's do 543 divided by, 457. And you get all these decimal places. Now you're going to write quite a few of these down, because remember, you have to have to the nearest hundredth, but you're also moving the decimal point 2 places for the percent conversion. So just write down like 5 decimal places, okay? So I'm going to say 1.18818. Hopefully that's enough. All right, so now let's move the decimal point to convert to a percent. So 1, 2. So I'm going to get 118.8. And I need one more decimal place in my percentage so that I have it to the nearest hundredth. So I'm going to write this 1 unless this number here bumps it up. And the 8 is high enough to bump it up, so I'm going to make that into a 2 right there. All right, so I'm going to do that. And then don't forget your percent sign. And then we need that word, which was increase. So 118.82% increase. Now that is a pretty big increase. If you have an increase that's over 100%, that means it more than doubled. So let's take a look back here and make sure it really doubled or more. Should be more because this is more than 100. 457 to 1,000. Let's see. 450 times 2 would just be 900 something. So it definitely more than doubled, and our answer does make sense. All right, let's go on to this next one. We started with 25 discs, and we went to 22 discs. Okay, started with 25, we went to 22. Is it increase or decrease? It's a decrease. All right, and by how much? Well, 25 minus 22 equals 3, so it's a decrease of 3. All right, so now we need P percent of the original, which was 25, is going to be this number that we computed, the amount of the decrease. So it's going to be a 3. Okay, and remember this number should always be positive, okay? So P percent of 25, that's going to mean P times 25 is going to be your equal sign, and then 3 goes right there. And if you'd rather write 25p, totally fine, same thing. Get rid of that 25 by dividing it on both sides. You're going to get P equal to something. 3 divided by 25. Okay, there we go, 0.12. Now, are we done? Almost. We got to move that. Decimal point 2 places. So you're left with 12%. And was it an increase or decrease? It was a decrease. So just copy that down there. And you have your final answer. Let's just make sure it makes sense. 12% decrease is not huge. That's not like a 50% decrease. And it looks like we only went down a few. So yeah, it does make sense. So on your assignment, I want you to maybe write this at the top of the page. So remember, these are the things to remember. Convert to percentage. So in other words, at the very end, make sure you're moving that decimal point. So So convert to percent, and also write increase or decrease. All right, so if you just write that at the top of your page, it should help make sure you don't forget those last couple steps, you know? So follow the same steps on here just like we did in our examples. You do not have to do all of them. You are going to go through number 20 and then you can stop. If you have any questions, let me know. I love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.